Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Savil's Megabyte 2020 virtual show. Today, I am happy to introduce all of you to a longstanding partner, Savile Food Service, that will be presenting today, Grande Cheese Company. The presentation purpose today is to offer expertise helping with profitability, utilizing simple ingredients by adding pizza and like menu items to your offerings during these challenging times. Steve Selznick and Todd Shep are our presenters today. Steve is an 18-year veteran with Grande, now working as the Region Development Manager, and Todd has been with Grande for over 7 years, serving the Baltimore, Washington, Northern Virginia market. Both of them are committed and have a mission to be an advocate of the independent restaurant, something Savile Food Service prides themselves with as well. I'm happy to introduce Steve and Todd. Welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So, pizza. What do you think is the #1 food during the pandemic so far? I don't know if everybody can chat or not at the same time, but coincidentally, pizza has been the #1 food during the pandemic. And does anybody on this conference so far know why that is? Why would pizza be #1 during the pandemic so far? And not to cut off Brian, is there interaction or the people online cannot speak?
They cannot speak, they can chat.
Okay. All right.
So
coincidentally, pizza was ready for the pandemic. The infrastructure, if you know a pizza shop, has been in place to service consumers during the pandemic. Very takeout friendly. Most pizzerias, in fact, were already set up for takeout and delivery, as we all know. So they were ready to pivot very quickly when restaurants got closed and we had to resort to curbside takeout and delivery. Moving on, other cuisines don't function as well for takeout and delivery. Think about a steakhouse. Think about cooking medium rare steaks or medium steaks and have them sitting for a long time. Think about seafood traveling. Think about fried foods in particular that don't hold up well in containers and steam in the boxes. So pizza has been naturally a food that people have migrated to during the pandemic. In particular, pizza is economical for all consumers. As we say, pizza is for the masses, not for the classes. And when you look at pizza as a whole and the economics of pizza, where else can you go today where you can feed a family of 4 for about 20 bucks? I'd venture to guess there's very few places you can do that. And even looking at all the different places there, I think pizza still rules in that space. I know, Steve, you're on mute, Steve. Steve, you were trying to say something, but you were on mute.
No, I'm sorry, Todd. Can you please advance the slide?
Oh.
Yeah, so what Todd was talking about here is really important. With pizza being #1, it creates an opportunity to say, okay, are operators positioned and able to add pizza to their existing menu? And the reality is that doing so is very, very easy. The unique thing about pizza is that you don't need specific equipment or need to add a lot of things within your restaurant to be able to participate in the segment. The thought of needing a pizza oven or a conveyor oven or even a coal fire oven, if you're really specialized, is something that is possible to add if you want to be specifically a pizzeria. If you're a casual dining restaurant today and you're not menuing pizza, the opportunity is that maybe it's only 10% of your menu, but you could actually accelerate that much more to be able to help improve profitability for your restaurant. If you are someone of a pretty well-to-do culinary background and you're great at making perhaps barbecue, or you're great at making fried chicken, or you make your own chicken tenders, there's ways for you to cross-utilize a lot of things you do well in your restaurant and implement them or put them into a pizza. So if you're great at making chicken tenders, you could add a chicken parm pizza or a Nashville hot chicken pizza, or even a chicken Parmesan pizza. So The idea is that there are a lot of things that you're doing in your restaurant today that could become a pizza, because ultimately pizza is not just a cheese pie anymore. It's almost an open faced sandwich. If you think about all the gourmet pies that are available out there that operators are selling at a premium, 25, 30, and sometimes $35 a piece. So it's important for you to think outside the box. And if you're menuing pizza today, and maybe it's an afterthought, the opportunity for you is to maybe make it, to accelerate it to a higher portion of your business moving forward.
Talking about getting into the pizza business, though, many people sit there and say, well, I don't have the skill. I don't have the equipment. I don't know how to get started in the pizza business. Where do I go from here? What do I need to do? And there's many products out there today that can easily put you into the pizza business. You don't need to have a professional pizzaiola in your restaurant stretching and making dough. There's plenty of great frozen crusts out there. There's things like flatbreads, pre-made frozen dough that you could easily, that's already pre-sheeted, sauces that are ready-made and ready to go. And as Steve was mentioning, all the ingredients that you currently have in your restaurant to utilize as toppings. Equipment, people are also worried about equipment. Your everyday convection oven in your restaurant can be your primary source for baking your pizzas. You don't have to rush out there and buy a pizza oven to get started in this business. Let's move on to talking about how consumers are still ordering food throughout the pandemic and how this pizza can play into this. There were several studies here, and we're going to talk about them one by one so that you can kind of understand where you need to go and how you need to adapt your restaurant if you haven't already during the pandemic, so that you can meet the needs of the ever-changing environment that we've been faced with due to COVID. So some studies were done, and when we look at the first study, there was over 50% of consumers so far during the pandemic have ordered curbside from a restaurant. And what does that mean to you? Where have they been ordering curbside? An additional survey was done. 49% of consumers ordered delivery from a restaurant. And in a third survey, 59% of consumers ordered takeout and picked up from inside a restaurant. So in order to understand what's going on here in these surveys, you're going to have to look at businesses in urban versus suburban areas, because I'm sure people on this seminar right now, some of you may have restaurants and establishments that are in the suburbs, and some of you may have establishments that are in the city. And when we look at the way restaurants are set up in each area, they are quite different. So one of the things that we've noticed in the pandemic so far is that suburban restaurants have tended to have more of a windfall when it comes to curbside pickup and takeout. If you think about it, a lot of suburban restaurants are either located in shopping centers, strip malls, things that have parking, easy access to get in and out. Whereas in the urban areas, maybe only have one or two spots out front. And if you're lucky, those spots aren't taken by somebody that's parking living either above or around in the current area. So, and then you also have to look at where consumers are now. A lot of people are working from home. So in your downtown city areas, people have kind of migrated away into the suburbs, and those busy lunch crowds that were sitting right within walking distance of your restaurant may not be there anymore. Whereas now for the restaurateurs that are in the suburban area, now they have a lot more people in their area during lunchtime where they didn't have a lunch business per se, and now their lunch business is a lot stronger. So how do you adapt your restaurant to meet those needs? Steve?
Great information. I mean, when you think about, your business and knowing where you are and knowing how your ability to adapt is also built around where you are and how you need to adapt is what I should say. If you're in an urban environment, more than likely, you're not going to have the number of parking spaces or the flexibility that you would expect from curbside. You might need more space. So maybe that isn't the best thing for you to do, or maybe you need to be able to pivot. Perhaps you talk to another restaurant close by, neighbor, and work off of some of their space as well. Maybe there's a parking lot across the street. You can try to work an arrangement out with that. There's different ways to adapt. If you are in a suburban area where you have a large parking lot, doing curbside pickup is relatively easy. You could have 3 or 4 spots designated within your parking lot, specifically with numbers. I have one operator in particular that has his restaurant, or actually his personal cell phone number as a text line They can simply say, text me, I'm in spot number 1, I'm in spot number 2 or 3. And then when the operator or the consumer pulls up to pick up their food, there's a message out there to bring the food out with contactless or curbside pickup. That's an ideal way to adapt quickly to keep your consumers feeling safe, also keeping a restaurant running efficiently.
So I'm going to jump in here. I want to give a couple key examples of how some restaurants during the pandemic have reached out to us for adapting their establishments at this time. For example, you might say, well, I'm a caterer, and I'm used to catering large parties and having all types of holiday events and stuff. And now my business is gone because there's no more office parties and there's no more lunches. And I don't have, biotech reps and stuff buying lunch for me to service their clients. And we had a prominent DC metro area caterer come to us saying, I need to make changes here. I need to pivot and I want to get into pizza. And basically, we went in there and we started from soup to nuts and taught them how to put together a pizza program. And you may say, well, I don't have a pizza oven. Well, in some of these cases, we've gone to what would be called more of a pan style pizza, either a Detroit style pizza or a grandma style pizza. And these are pizzas that you bake in pans that can easily work in a typical convection oven, which most caterers have. We had another example of a seafood restaurant that was struggling in this market to really meet the needs of their takeout business because their food just didn't travel well. And they saw an uptick in pizza, obviously, as we all have seen, and called us immediately. And they were even willing to invest in an oven and put a brand new oven and went soup to nuts all out in a pizza program. So you really don't, you can go from one extreme to the other, but we can work with you to help you adapt your restaurant to meet the needs of what is best for you and your surrounding area and produce a product that will help you increase your sales during these times. So what most people don't realize is that over 50% of consumers intentionally order more pizza than what they need for leftovers. And what does that mean to you as an operator? How does that benefit you? Okay, think about your ticket averages. Pizza is a really great way to increase ticket sales, especially when you know that people are going to order more pizza than what they want for one meal. Everybody typically uses pizza for 2 meals. What is it? It's dinner that night and lunch the next day. And how can that help you increase your ticket averages and get greater profits?
Excellent point.
So one of the things that you'll see is most pizza operators are selling multiple pie deals. They're also selling family meals. So for example, you would get 1 large pizza and a salad and maybe breadsticks, or 2 large pizzas and some other appetizer off your menu. There's a lot of different ways to market to your end user to get them to increase your ticket averages. But just keep in mind that people always want enough pizza for that second day. So make sure that whatever you're marketing is a meal that's bigger than 1 meal. Very, very important. Okay. Steve?
All right, I think we have some questions.
Would you like me to go through them now?
Yes, please.
All right, so first it says, what is the best basic recipe for a pizza dough? Something close to thin, crispy New York pizza. What is the best pizza sauce to use in your opinion?
Great question. Todd, do you want to take that?
Yeah. So let's just start out with pizza dough. So there are numerous recipes for pizza dough and getting into them. And there's all different ones from making dough the same day to aging dough overnight. And that would be something that if at the end of this presentation, I can share my email and my personal phone number. And rather than get into a heavy dough recipe right now, that'd be something that I can work with you on an individual basis. It's quite more than like a 5-minute conversation on dough. And we'd be happy to provide you with all different types of recipes for dough. I have tons of them. And we have some great resources on our website at grandecheese.com. So I'd rather not get into a long conversation about dough making because that'll take us into a whole nother spin. But we can definitely work with you on a great pizza dough recipe if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah,
when it comes to sauces, we have several great partners in the marketplace that can really help you out. One of Savil's great partners is the Stanislaus family. They produce a whole line of tomato products that are from ready to use or for scratch tomatoes. They have a great representative in the area that's very similar to us that can work with you to help develop recipes on your own. They also have Savile also has another great partner, Cento Tomatoes as well, and they have a rep as well that can work with you. And us as well, we have many great recipes for tomato sauces, and like the dough, we can get into that as well, and we can share that information with you.
Expanding a little bit on that question, though, without getting into the recipe, Todd, and that's definitely true. We can give you some expertise on that. It's been a popular question throughout COVID as how do I get my dough more crispy? And a lot of that is because that 90% of your pizzas are traveling to someone's home versus being consumed in your restaurant on premises. So we also have some tips and tricks that we can provide to help get your dough a little bit more crispy, as well as something that's becoming very popular in the last 6 months or so are perfect crust liners, which are available at perfectcrust.com. You can learn a little bit more about a liner that can be placed inside your box to absorb some of the moisture, some of the steam that's generated when you close the box on a hot pizza. So perfectcrust.com is another place to go if you're looking for something without having to alter your recipe too much.
Okay, so next up we have, if you have no pizza making experience, what are the chances of success if someone were to open a pizza restaurant from scratch? How long would it take to learn how to make pizza? Is there school for pizza making?
Great question. So the answer is that you can learn how to make pizza and get into the pizza business very, very quickly. So quickly that there's actually a local provider out of the northern, let's say a little bit north of DC, toward the College Park area. There's an organization called Pizza University. And Pizza University is providing courses throughout the year. This year, even during the pandemic, they provided 7 courses. It was a 3-day course that taught you everything from dough making to sauce making to pizza, opening up a dough ball, the science around dough, and also just the balance. When you think about pizza, it's dough, sauce, and cheese. And you can master all 3 pretty quickly within 3 days. That would be a recommended local place to go for learning the pizza trade. And of course, there are so many resources that are available now beyond our expertise. As Grande organization is concerned, we're trained as associates to essentially be able to put you into the business. It's well beyond the cheese as the consultation that Grande provides. So we're essentially trained to put you in 4 walls that could be empty and help you establish or build a pizzeria relatively quickly. Beyond the schools, there's also trusting your network. And then we're happy to help with anything regarding getting you up and started in a pizzeria.
Next question, well, actually it's asking, can you in the chat box for everybody, can you add the website for the crust liner again?
Absolutely.
And then somebody was saying that you didn't mention this, but for profitability, do you want to talk about control containers, about how much pizza cheese goes onto pie?
Sure. Todd, would you like to take that?
Yeah. So amounts of cheese are going to vary from pie to pie depending upon the style of pizza you're doing. If we're looking at a standard, I'll just go with a standard New York pizza, which you get in your average pizza shop. Okay, we typically at Grande with our product, because we don't have any fillers or additives in there, we like to recommend less cheese. So for us on a 10-inch pizza, you would use approximately 4 ounces of cheese. On a 12-inch pizza, we would recommend approximately 6 ounces of cheese. On a 14-inch, 8 ounces of cheese, and on a 16-inch, 10 ounces. And it can vary up or down an ounce or two. It depends on the style of pizza, how much sauce you're putting on there, the thickness of your crust. When we get into things like wood-fired pizza, you're typically going to use a little bit less. And like I said, it varies from pizza to pizza, from oven to oven. But when we come in and work with you on your different pizzas, that's one of our goals, is to establish the right amount of product for you that's not only economical and food costing, but puts out the product that you want to be proud of.
One of the things we talk about is balance. Balance in every food. Balance on a pizza is a big deal. So it's really important that it's almost like too much icing on a cake, you ruin the cake. Too much cheese on a pizza, you ruin the pizza. So it's really important that you have the balance. You're also not going to get the crust to cook up properly if there's too much weight, too much cheese on top. So balance is key with making a pie.
So next question, locally, who is the best contractor that you would recommend for building out a pizza kitchen?
Yourself. We say that tongue in cheek. There are a number of construction companies out there that I've seen that operators have turned to. I honestly wouldn't particularly recommend any one in particular. I would say that you would, like you would in any project, you would create a budget, you would work with a contractor and make sure that you're comfortable with some of their previous work. Look for references. References are key, like in any construction project or any project you're going to do. Make sure that you have the opportunity to talk to a few other pizzerias or restaurateurs to see what their experience with the contractor was or has been. Um, there's a saying, it's you're only as good as your last job. And I would say that you'd want to look at the last 3 or 4 jobs that a contractor has done, as far as whether it be a pizzeria or even a larger scale restaurant, for sure.
So Detroit pizza keeps coming into the conversation. What's the difference and how can I generate profit without cannibalizing existing sales?
I'll take this, Steve, if you want. So Detroit pizza, it comes from Detroit area, as you can imagine. Detroit pizza is a pan style pizza. And back in, I don't know what year it was, but a lot of the workers at the auto factories had metal pans for for all their supplies, their bolts or nuts. And they started taking them home and found out it was great for baking pizzas in. And so a pan style pizza was developed using these pans. And basically what you have is a 10 by the standard size. And there's all different sizes, but the standard size is approximately 10 by 14. And it's about a 2-inch high pan. And what you're doing is you're taking your normal New York style pizza dough. And first you're buttering or oiling the inside of the pan. It's some type of fat on the inside of the pan that you want to coat the pan with. And then you're basically stretching your dough out into the pan, and you're letting it proof up over approximately 1 to 2 hours to gain height. And then typically what you would do is you would par bake the crust for approximately 7 minutes at a higher heat, 500 to 550 degrees. And then you would pull the pie out after about 7 minutes. And then you're going to take your cheese. And the traditional way to make it was with brick cheese. And brick cheese is a form of cheddar that was readily available in that area. Since then, we've seen a lot of people kind of move away from brick, and they're kind of doing what they want to do. We have several different blends at Grande that we would recommend for making pan pizzas. But in particular, what you do is you're going to take approximately, in that size pizza, it's almost a pound of cheese. It's a very heavy, cheesy pie. And about 70% of your cheese is going to be stacked around the edges of the pan. So if you think about it, when you par bake a crust, it kind of shrinks a little bit into the pan, and you'll see like a slight gap going around the edges of the pan. And you would stack your cheese up around the edges of the pan, and then you would sprinkle the remaining cheese across the top of the pie and pop it back in the oven until it caramelizes and browns, which takes about another 7 minutes. Then you would pull the pizza out, and then you would sauce it at the top. And I'm going to scroll real quick back on my slide to show you the first slide. If you look, I don't know if you guys can see my cursor pointing up here, but the upper right corner, that is a Detroit style pie. And when you pull it out of the oven, what you get is this nice, thick, cheesy crust. It's quite a heavy pizza, but it's very easy to make. Now, going back to your question about how can I generate profit without cannibalizing my sales by adding this pizza, I'm assuming, to your current menu. What we're seeing in the pizza industry over the last few years is offering more than one style of pizza on your menu. And the question is why? Well, it's to get people to come back to your pizzeria either multiple times a week or at least a couple times a month. And by having different types of pizza on your menu, offering a second style of pizza, it gives that opportunity for you to draw a customer more than once a week or at least several times a month. Additionally, offering a different style pizza, such as a Detroit style pizza, you can actually upcharge for it. The cost associated with making it is going to be slightly higher than what your normal pizza is, but not to the point where let's say it's maybe 50 to 75 cents extra additional cost to make this pie, maybe an additional 50 to 75 cents in labor. You're going to be able to charge $5 to $6 more for a pizza of this style because there's perceived value behind a pie that looks like this.
Yeah. And the biggest thing right now is creating differentiation. If you can differentiate yourself in this environment, when you say, well, wow, I don't want to be a pizza shop. You know, I know a lot of operators and a lot of chefs that said to me, I don't want to be a pizza shop, that are classically trained chefs that are now doing very well for themselves by um, differentiating themselves versus a New York style pizzeria or a typical pizzeria that you would consider maybe the chains. Detroit style pizza, ironically, is when you think of Little Caesars, you wouldn't want to say or consider Little Caesars the equality, but you have the ability to have a thicker crust, be able to use premium products, and be able to really differentiate versus those chains with a pan style pie, like the Detroit style pie. Those two strips, and the interesting thing about Detroit style pizza also is that the sauce is actually applied last. So unlike a New York style pizza when the sauce is under the cheese, a Detroit style pizza has the sauce on top after bake. And those two little strips across that Todd showed you on the opening page are actually like a drag strip. So you have those two little strips. That's why it's kind of like the signature mark of the Detroit style pizza, that a drag strip of like the old Detroit Motor City type look that you're trying to get from that pizza. It's a really neat way to differentiate yourself.
So here's another question. How would I, an operator new to pizza, set myself apart from my neighboring competition?
Great question. We'll kick it off. So, how are you going to differentiate yourself versus your neighboring competition? A couple things. First is going to be through quality. Quality is always going to win, and one of the unique things that with us in particular, we offer many different blends to provide you with the opportunity to differentiate via flavor. So, if you are wanting to, if you have a New York style pizza shop that's across the street or down the road from you or adjacent, typically they're going to be using mozzarella for their pie. So the flavor profile by design is more buttery, maybe a little bit bland, but buttery is probably the best way to describe it. If you want to differentiate, you could add provolone component to your pie to give a different flavor profile of your pizza. You could add Asiago. You could go whole milk, which is a much more buttery or rich flavor profile versus part skim that might be a little bit less on the richness, maybe more on the salt side. So it's about determining what your flavor profile you want it to be. Could be one way. Another thing could be through dough. And what we're seeing in the last year or two that's gotten really popular are different fermentation times on dough. Some operators will use dough and make dough and use the dough the next day with a slightly less number of days of fermentation. So the flavor of the dough is not as robust or flavorful as those that ferment their dough for say 3 days. So you can create differentiation from the composition or the structure of your dough to the flavor of your cheese or even your sauce if you want to go more on the garlicky side or maybe on the sweeter side. Um, those three components have a lot of play to really differentiate yourself versus maybe one of your competitors. The other thing I would say is that you differentiate through toppings. Um, you know, we have operators that have a lot of culinary ability that can add all kinds of great toppings that they're using or making in their kitchen that are a lot different than the classic pepperoni or sausage or the meat lovers or your veggie pies. We have guys that are doing a lot of different things with unique toppings, and they're charging for it, and they're making money doing it.
Yeah, that's some great thought there. I was going to say, having a restaurant that's typically not in pizza, having something that's more eclectic and more Gucci-like pizzas, maybe not offering the size variations from 12, 14, 16, 18-inch pizzas and doing something that's standard, one size fits all, maybe it's a 10-inch individual or small pizza that has some of their typical foods that they're already utilizing within their kitchens to separate themselves from what a traditional pizza place might be doing.
Great, it's a great point. And for probably 10 or 15 years now as well, especially with gastropubs, we've seen more menu mentions as being flatbread. And flatbread really is essentially a pizza that's just in a different shape. It's being served as an appetizer. Some people are eating it as an entree. but it's very cost effective and very profitable, utilizing again, your culinary ability to create whatever topping combinations you want.
Another thing to look at too is also the specific market that you're in. In the Northern Virginia market, for example, I have an operator that has a heavily um, ethnic market, and he caters a lot of his pizzas vegetarian style, and caters a lot of pizzas with Indian cuisine on there. So he has all different tiki masalas and different types sauces that are very geared to the community that surrounds his pizza shop and that frequent his shop. And they're selling off the hook. He very, very rarely sells a pepperoni pizza. I mean, if you look at his tickets on a Friday night, it's tiki masala, it's some sort of Indian cuisine on every single one of his pizza, and there's no cheese pizzas going out the door. On the flip side, he does have a large vegan population too, and he offers vegan cheese, and he has quite a few vegan recipes as well. So it's all about that differentiation and looking at your surrounding community and what they want.
So next question, does Grande cheese perform the same in all different types of pizza ovens? Examples, deck ovens, conveyor ovens, or wood burning ovens?
I'll take that, Steve. So all of our cheeses do perform differently. I mean, they're all designed to perform well in the pizza operation. But typically what we would do is, depending upon your heat source, when we come in, we work with you to find the right cheese and the right size cut of cheese that meets the application and the oven and the heat source that you're working with. Just to give you an example, if you're cooking at 900 degrees, you're going to want a cheese like a whole milk product that has a higher butterfat content as opposed to a part skim content. And that would be because part skim will burn or brown at a lower temperature than, say, whole milk, which has that higher butterfat to protect it from the heat. Also, we offer different sizes, like our shred versus our diced cheese. Depending upon your heat source and the amount of sauce you have on there, cheese melts differently over the sauces. So really, there's no perfect answer to that question, other than that it would take, we just pop in there, we kind of look at what your operation's doing, and we can help recommend the item that works best for you and the look that you're trying to create on your pie. It'd be more of a customized thing to get to where you want to get to.
So next question, what or how, I don't even know how to say this. The burning question is, is pineapple a true topping for pizza? And the person's asking, please put that in the chat box for people's thoughts on that.
Wow, that's a burning question.
Okay. I personally don't like pineapple or ham on my pizza.
Tell you what,
as we say at Grande, and everybody says, pizza's personal. That's the beauty of it, is that as an operator, you can tell your pie to anybody and anything that they want. You can make it whatever you want it to be. There's no right or wrong.
It's funny because when you think about sweet, one of the most popular toppings we've seen in the last several years has been Mike's Hot Honey. And Mike's Hot Honey is implementing sweet and hot together. And when you think about, ham, pineapple, and then we have some operators that have introduced the hot honey element to the Hawaiian pizza to give that hot and sweet together. And I'm not gonna lie, it's not bad. I was one of those purists that was the anti-pineapple guy, but I guess 2020 has opened me up on even pineapple and pizza. So there's another 2020 revelation.
It's funny, we do have some chatting going on in there.
I probably lost some credibility on that.
Well, the first person said, we had to go here, ha ha ha. So I don't have any other questions. Do you guys have any more to discuss? Would you like any more opportunities to ask anything to the attendees?
I have a couple questions, if I could, just to create some dialogue. I'd love to. I'd say this. I would say that the pizza industry is very fortunate to be in the position that we're in, as far as the ability to have mobility, where pizza has been the classic delivery food. You think about pizza and Chinese food in particular, have been those go-to delivery items for a really long time. So we were fortunate in that pizza was already ready to conquer a situation like this. I mean, we joke around in the industry that we're cockroaches. We're very difficult to kill. So the pizzerias that have been most successful through this not only had the infrastructure in place, but they were very open-minded and they were very adaptable. They were those that kind of didn't go down the road with that wheelbarrow so often that they had dug a really deep rut they couldn't get out of, meaning that they were open-minded. So everyone that's participating and that's here, I would say, be as open-minded as you can, and the things that you might have used to say no to. And we have a lot of operators that for years and years refuse to deliver. They refuse to be involved with either a third party delivery person or have anybody even on staff to deliver. Um, those that pivoted quickly in March and April and started offering those services saved the ship. They were able to maintain their business. They were able to keep their employees gainfully employed, to give them the hours that they needed to be able to provide for their families. And they were also able to live to fight another day because of the adaptability. So I'd say that, sometimes we put ourselves in uncomfortable situations. It's amazing what we can do. And a lot of operators were willing to do that. There were also some operators that were not, and they aren't doing as well. And we work hard to try to help those operators look at it from a different vantage point. And what we do is we share experiences from other successful operators with those that are struggling to help them get to a better place. So I'd say be very open-minded.
Todd, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, so I just like to say that if you're going to get into the pizza business, the one thing that I always stress is that, um, and I hate to say it, but don't try and be like Domino's, Papa John's, or Pizza Hut. Don't go to be the bottom feeders. You're never going to beat them in their marketing. They have the money, they have the breadth, they have the width that you as an independent don't have. But that is actually your strength because people nowadays more than ever are looking for better quality food to eat. Especially, I found with my friends and people that I've talked in the industry is that the one thing about this pandemic is that when people are eating and they're getting takeout and they are eating out and not in their house, they want high quality food. They don't want junk. And they're willing to pay for it. And that's where a lot of restaurateurs don't see or they'll miss the gap is that they're afraid to charge. Sometimes you'll think about it. If you go into a store and there's three of the same item with different brands on them, and one item is $25 and one is $20 and one is 15. You wonder what's the difference between them. And that $15 one you might think is, oh, well, that's cheap and that's not going to work. And then you might look at the $25 one and say, well, that's premium. Is that the Mercedes? Do I need that? And then is the $20 one the right for me? And the key is to find what's going to be the best for you and your business, your consumers in the area, and that's going to be profitable for you. Don't always try to be the cheapest, be the best, because the best always wins. Quality never goes out of style.
Amen.
Very good. Oh, we have another question. Could pizza bagels be something that I could offer to my customers as something different to sell?
Absolutely. Think of a pizza bagel as another open faced sandwich. If you're a bagel store, or if you only build your breakfast place and lunch place, and you have bagels, take the pizza bagels and make it anything you want. I mean, if you walk into any of these modern bagel stores now that are all over the DMV area in New York, I mean, they are offering all kinds of different bagel type sandwiches. I mean, everything from smoked brisket to you know the most premium types of corned beef and things. And why not turn that into a pizza? Absolutely, you could. There's no limit to it. It's just think of it as a crust and add your sauce, your dough, your sauce, your cheese, and your toppings.
Sounds like good lunch for today. So I don't have any other questions here. Is there any closing comments you'd like to have?
I'd say thank you for your time for sure. And we when we in the bio we reference being the advocate of the independent, and at Grande we are the advocate of the independent. The independent pizzeria, independent restaurant is everything to us. We're independent as well. All of our milk comes from independent dairy farms. Majority of our distribution is independent, like our partner Savile. It's really important for us to make sure we help differentiate the independent pizzeria versus those chains, as well as the independent restaurant in general, whether it be an Italian restaurant or whether it be casual dining. It's all about differentiation right now, and we're dedicated to you, and we want to help you in any way we can. So Todd has all of his information here. I'll let Todd close here with just sharing his information and making sure that you reach out to him. More than happy to see you either in this format virtually, or we would be happy to see you visit you in your restaurant. We have a team of folks throughout the Mid Atlantic that are dedicated to helping you succeed.
Great. Well, I do want to thank you, Steve and Todd and Grande, for your time today and all of our attendees. We hope that you had some good learning moments here because it was definitely packed full of information. So I appreciate your time and look forward to seeing everybody soon.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a great day.